Xing Fei's confession shocks China. The truth about Yu Menglong revealed. The storm that had already engulfed China's entertainment world took on a new, electric energy tonight. Under the shimmering lights of a Beijing press hall packed with cameras and whispering journalists, Xing Fei stepped onto the stage, her black dress fluttering against the flashes, her eyes shimmering with a secret too heavy to carry any longer. For weeks, the nation had been gripped by unanswered questions about Yu Menglong's tragic fall. The rooftop rumors, the blurred CCTV clips, the whispers of betrayal. But no one expected the small, soft-spoken actress, beloved for her bubbly on-screen charm, to become the lightning rod of truth. "Tonight," she began, her voice trembling but steady, "I cannot stay silent any longer. The world deserves to know what really happened the night Yu Menglong died." The room went dead quiet. Even the clicking shutters seemed to hold their breath. Wang Yiba, seated in the front row, leaned forward so suddenly that his chair creaked. Bai Lu pressed a tissue to her lips, her knuckles whitening. Somewhere near the back, Su Kai's phone buzzed with frantic texts from friends watching a live feed. Xing Fei took another breath, steadying herself against the podium. "We were at the tower that night," she said, her eyes flickering towards Song Iren, who sat frozen like a marble statue. "There was an argument, yes, but not the kind of argument the headlines are painting. Menglong wasn't angry. He wasn't reckless. He was protecting someone." Gasps rippled across the room. The journalists erupted, hands shooting up, but she raised her palm for silence. The cameras zoomed closer, catching the way her tears slipped past her lashes, sparkling under the lights. "It wasn't supposed to be like this," she whispered, her voice cracking now. "He promised me he'd explain everything after the rooftop meeting, but then—" her breath hitched. "Then he was gone." The room was no longer just a press hall, it was a confessional. Every detail she shared painted a cinematic scene. Menglong stepping into the misty rooftop air, the city's neon lights flickering below, a secret phone call buzzing in his pocket. A mysterious shadow at the far end of the terrace. A shouted name swallowed by the wind. Wang Yiba's jaw clenched, his eyes shimmering with unshed tears. He stood briefly, fists at his sides, before sitting back down, visibly shaking. Bai Lu reached over, gripping Tan Songyun's hand in shared shock. Somewhere in the back, a young blogger live-streaming the event whispered breathlessly into their mic, This is the twist none of us saw coming." Xing Fei continued, "There's something on the CCTV footage that hasn't been shown publicly. I saw it with my own eyes, a figure moving toward Menglong just seconds before." Her voice faltered, and she covered her mouth, fighting for composure. "That footage needs to be released. For him. For all of us." The room exploded with noise, reporters shouting questions, cameras flashing like lightning in a midnight storm. Outside, on Weibo and TikTok, the live stream comments went berserk. "Xing Fei is risking her career for this. Was it really an accident? Release the rooftop video now." Within minutes, hashtags like #XingFeiConfession and #JusticeForYuMenglong were trending across every platform. Streets outside the venue flooded with fans holding candles and handwritten signs. The city itself seemed to hum with the revelation. A million phones buzzing in unison, a nation leaning closer to its screens. Back inside the hall, Song Iren finally stood, her face pale. She reached for a microphone but thought better of it, lowering it slowly. The tension between her and Xing Fei was palpable, a silent storm of accusation, regret, and memories too raw to expose. Bai Lu broke the silence with a broken sob, her shoulders shaking as she whispered, "He was the best of us." Security escorted Xing Fei off stage as questions rained down. Who else was on the rooftop? What secrets had Menglong been keeping? And who, if anyone, would step forward next? In the parking lot, the drizzle had returned, dotting the windshields of idling black sedans. Wang Yiba stood alone beneath a flickering street lamp, staring at the wet asphalt. Su Kai joined him quietly, slipping a cigarette between his fingers, though he didn't light it. "Do you believe her?" Su asked. Yiba didn't answer immediately. He stared at the sky, watching the clouds shift over Beijing's skyline. Finally, his voice came low and tight. "I believe Menglong deserves the truth, and I'll burn the world down to find it." Far away, in a cramped apartment in another district, a nervous man watched the broadcast replay on a cracked laptop screen. His hands trembled as he paused on a frame from the leaked footage, a shadowed figure on the rooftop's edge. He knew what the world didn't yet. The story wasn't over. And Xing Fei's confession was just the beginning. The press hall still pulsed with shock even an hour after Xing Fei had left the podium. Reporters lingered in tight huddles, their whispers colliding like sparks in dry air. Camera crews replayed footage on their viewfinders, catching the tremble in her voice, the shimmer of tears on her lashes, and the moment the room collectively gasped. Outside, the drizzle had turned to rain, streaking the glass doors like silver tears. Beijing itself seemed to mourn. Wang Yiba remained in the front row, motionless, as though his body had forgotten how to move. His fists, still clenched, rested on his knees. Around him, the once packed seats had emptied, but a few colleagues hovered nearby, unsure whether to speak. Bai Lu sat several rows back, shoulders hunched, staring at the stage where Xing Fei's confession had shattered the fragile narrative that Menglong's death was an accident. The silence was suddenly broken by a faint buzzing. A phone left on a chair was vibrating against the plastic. It was Su Kai's. He glanced at the caller ID, his expression tightening. "They're already calling this the biggest scandal of the decade," he murmured, sliding the phone back into his pocket. Meanwhile, outside the building, the scene had become chaotic. Fans who had been quietly holding candles earlier were now pressed against barricades, demanding answers. Hand-painted signs bearing Menglong's name waved against the rain. "Justice for Menglong. Show the CCTV footage." Drones hovered overhead, capturing the growing crowd, while live streamers narrated breathlessly for millions watching across the country. Inside, Bai Lu finally stood, her black heels echoing on the marble floor as she approached Wang Yiba. "She didn't just drop a confession," Bai Lu said quietly, her voice shaking. "She lit a fuse. And now the whole industry is about to explode." Yiba looked up at her, his face hard but his eyes bright with unshed tears. "Good," he said, his voice low and steady. "Let it explode. It's the only way the truth will come out." A soft chime interrupted them, a news alert flashing across the giant screen on the far wall. The headline read, "Emergency meeting called by Golden Dragon Entertainment in wake of Xing Fei's revelation." The entertainment company that had managed Menglong throughout his career was now in crisis mode. Rumors swirled that executives were scrambling to contain the fallout and suppress whatever footage Xing Fei had hinted at. Backstage, Xing Fei herself sat on a folding chair, her makeup smudged and her hands trembling as a friend pressed a bottle of water into her palm. The gravity of what she'd done was setting in. Her manager's phone rang relentlessly, directors, sponsors, and network executives all demanding explanations. But Xing Fei seemed far away, her gaze fixed on the memory of that rooftop night. She whispered to herself, almost inaudible, "Menglong didn't deserve this." In another part of the city, a small cafe played the news feed on a mounted television. Patrons stopped mid-sip to watch the replay of her confession. One young woman, wearing a faded hoodie with Menglong's face printed on it, covered her mouth, tears spilling freely. "I knew there was more to this story," she whispered to her friend. Across the cafe, an older man shook his head, muttering, "This will tear the industry apart." As the evening deepened, social media became a battlefield. Hashtags trended globally. Hashtag Xing Fei Confession, hashtag Truth for Menglong, hashtag Rooftop Mystery. Fan theories spread like wildfire. Some claimed they recognized the shadowy figure Xing Fei mentioned from a past photo shoot. Others speculated wildly about conspiracies involving rival studios or jealous co-stars. Screenshots of blurry, unverified images flooded timelines. Meanwhile, at Golden Dragon Entertainment's headquarters, a storm was brewing behind closed doors. Executives gathered around a massive conference table, their faces grim. One slammed a folder onto the table. "This footage cannot see the light of day," he barked. But another, One of Menglong's earliest mentors spoke up, his voice cracking with emotion. He was more than a brand. He was family. We owe him honesty. Outside the building, journalists camped in the rain, their cameras trained on the tinted windows. Rumors trickled out. The board was divided, some pushing for a cover-up, others ready to release the evidence before it leaked anyway. Back at the press hall, Wang Yibo finally rose from his seat. The click of his shoes on the marble floor echoed like gunshots in the silence. He approached the podium where Xing Fei had stood just an hour earlier. He didn't turn to the cameras. Instead, he faced the empty chairs, his words meant only for Menglong, and maybe for the ghosts that still lingered. They can hide the footage. They can twist the headlines. But they can't bury the truth forever, he said softly. Not this time. Bai Lu overheard him. She stepped forward and touched his arm lightly, her voice a whisper of shared resolve. Then we don't stop. We keep pushing. For him. The two locked eyes for a moment, a silent vow forged in grief and fury. Then Yibo turned, slipping on his black coat as he prepared to leave the hall. Outside, as he stepped into the rain, a cheer went up from the fans who spotted him. Some reached for his hand, others thrust phones forward, capturing the steely determination on his tear-streaked face. In the shadows of the alley across the street, a hooded figure watched the commotion. He held a USB drive between his fingers, turning it over nervously. The faint light from a street lamp revealed a flash of fear in his eyes. This, he knew, was the piece that could either expose the truth or destroy countless lives. Far from the flashing cameras and chanting crowds, Xing Fei retreated to her apartment. She pulled open a drawer and took out a small velvet box, a keepsake Menglong had once given her during a grueling filming schedule. Inside was a silver bracelet engraved with a single word, promise. Her tears finally fell unchecked as she whispered into the quiet room, I kept my promise, Menglong. I told them. Across China, millions watched and waited. The confession had shattered the carefully built facade surrounding Menglong's death, but it had also cracked open something larger, a reckoning for an industry that often buried its sins beneath glitz and glamour. As the city's skyline glittered in the distance, lightning flashed, a streak of white across the night sky, illuminating the rain-slicked streets and the faces of those unwilling to forget. Somewhere in that vast city, the missing footage still existed. Somewhere, a friend, a rival, or a stranger held the key to everything. And now, thanks to Xing Fei, the world was no longer willing to look away.